Hello and welcome to the IMANAH Podcast, episode 20, or XX in Roman numerals. We must never get to 30. Dear friends, before I introduce today's topic, I'd like you to imagine, if you will, a house you visit of a dear loved one. It is filled with clutter from floor to ceiling. Some of you will get an anxiety attack just thinking about such a scene. Let's say you've now determined to clean up this house with the permission of the owner. How do you approach this? Do you go scorched earth and trash everything? Clean, paint, make everything look new, and have that satisfied smile on your face? What if the next time you come back and the house is back to its former cluttered glory? Are you going to keep doing this for the rest of your life? What if the owner doesn't want you to throw things out because they have an emotional attachment to some of those things? You can get as complex as you'd like, get organized with clearly marked boxes, shelves, take pictures, and even a phone app or online inventory database. You can go through training the owner on how to keep things organized and even make some money by selling some of his things. Similar to a cluttered house, today's episode is about the cluttered mind. There are many approaches to getting things sorted out. Over the years, Guruji has incorporated many things he's learned from his own life experiences into the natural health sciences that we know today. For example, when things weren't going right, my mother would often ask, "What is bothering you?" She was a big believer in the adage that all diseases and all problems people face start in the mind. We kids would feel she was blaming us for our own misfortune, but she was trying to get us to realize that we may be inadvertently causing our own woes. Similar to the cluttered house, there is some level of planning and reflection one must do. Your body manages 3.5 trillion cells, an untold number of organs and processes 24/7. Even as you sleep, it is healing. There is nothing that is more loyal to you than your own body and mind, and it deserves your attention. Treating the self with indulgences of sweets or unhealthy vices is not the solution. Just like ignoring the clutter in the house and putting on your favorite show won't make that mess clean itself. It is similar to a baby, a child who needs love and attention. Many of us are so busy caring for others, whether it be people, animals, or even things, that we often neglect our own self, which manifests in the form of rashes, allergies, or some other reaction from the body. We all know that when you neglect a child, it is a form of abuse. The self is no less important. If you reach this understanding, then the first thing you must do is step out of yourself and issue a real heartfelt apology for neglecting the self. And you can't lie to yourself. You'll get caught. This is not as easy as it may seem. Words of affirmation. "I'm truly sorry for neglecting you. I'll take time out for you," should come from that heart. We know that many people are dealing with anxiety, depression, fear, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and many other emotional obstacles. Taking the time to meditate on cleaning up the clutter will help you, but just like the house, you have to see it through to the end. It's going to get messier before it gets cleaner. The goal is to discover that when you gain mastery over these emotions, they become an asset in your tool belt rather than a debilitating liability. My mother had demonstrated this to me so many times. For example, even addressing my own self in this way had the immediate effect of abating some of the symptoms that I faced. She said to say, "I hear you, and I will pay attention to you and mean what you say." These are not just words of affirmation as lip service. Try it and comment below if this ever had a similar effect for you. Yes, you must get ample exercise, adequate rest, positive foods, positive thoughts, and an occupation where you can use your passions and talents to help others. A big part of this is giving yourself the necessary time. Some of us are fortunate to have loved ones fill our love tank day in and day out. Others aren't as lucky and have to find ways to take care of the self. We've been taught that cleanliness is next to godliness, and that means to keep a clean house. It also means to keep a clean, healthy body and a clean mind. When we were children, things were so much simpler. It didn't take very much to make us happy, and we bounced back from things that made us upset. As we grow older, we accumulate baggage and mental clutter. How do we declutter? It's a process. You must have patience, but don't put it off. The time to start is now. Today on the IMANAH Podcast, we dive deeper into this critical topic, exploring how to declutter our minds and foster genuine self-care with insights from Guruji and incredible voices from Natural Health Sphere.
मन रे तू काहे न धीर धरे ओ निर्मोही मोह न जाने जिनका मोह करे. I may not be a good singer, but this is a song I remind myself. It says, it's advising the mind to be bold, to be calm, to be cautious, so that so many decisions that we make without giving it a clear thought. Clarifying our mind is very, very essential. Mind your thoughts, they say. And then mind leads to and initiates all your actions. Oh, I'll do like that. Let me become like this. We copy others, we kind of get the flow without deciding how to take these steps. You want to be an artist, you want to be a singer, you want to be a dancer, you want to be an architect, whatever you want to be. There are so many wants in the mind, but there are steps to go through so that you will be a successful person. It's not enough to be a singer, you have to be a good singer. It's not enough to be an artist, you have to be a very good artist. Like that, everything that you want, you have to train yourself to become the better person of yourself. Remind your mind that you are a good person. That's the most important thing. When I think evil about other things, about spoiling other people and then becoming better, that's not a good way. I am a good person to begin with. We have to remind ourselves. And in order to compete with others, you have to take your own style. Don't copy anybody else. Then when you copy, you have to be the second person or third person or how much you get back. But if you choose your own personality, your own character, your own style of presenting anything, that's totally without any fear you can do it. There was a person who wanted to be a speaker. When he tried to imitate other speakers, he was a failure. He then consulted me, and then I said, you have a personality. Bring your personality out. Don't try to copy anybody else. Then he focused on it meditated on his own personality for a day or two, and then he came out with such a powerful speech. It was his own style. It was nothing like some other speakers. He had his own style, and people loved it. You don't have to copy anybody else. Each person has got a special character. We have seen movies where there is a villain, there is a hero, there's all kinds of jokers also in that movie. If a person imitates another person, he is not performing well. Like that, mind initiates all our actions. Remind your mind that you are a good person. That's the most important thing. All our physical problems, so many other problems in the body, that's originated from the mind. We don't know that. Oh, how can I say that asthma is related to my mind? You have to trace back. A person who is disturbed, mentally disturbed, he doesn't breathe well, and he accumulates, he goes and eats things which are not good for his health, and he doesn't digest it well and doesn't eliminate well, and its stream of problems starts from that. Wrong thoughts. If you're thinking good, I am a good person, I should eat well, I should eat good healthy food so that I could perform better. All that we have to remind ourselves. To train the mind, we have to remind ourselves about adopting good habits. Good actions bring good results, good reactions. We know all that, but we have to remind ourselves. So many very well qualified persons also fall down in the sphere of the world because they don't keep their mind calm. As you think, so you do. If you think properly, don't have to worry about failure. Don't have to worry about other people criticizing you. Focus on the quality of your work. I'm saying I'm representing nature cure. Without any medicine, you can cure all your diseases. They don't believe you. What's this person saying? He's a nothing. There are so many big doctors, big hospitals, big establishments. We should rely on them, not rely on this person. So they say it doesn't matter about people who don't understand. Choose people who understand and make them follow and show the results. When you show results in one person, then another person joins, then that's the correct way to go. Doesn't matter how many people follow you, and if you show good results, automatically more and more people will join you. Confidence comes only by practice. When we know that what we are doing is truth, is the right path, that's all you need to know. If it is not today, it'll be tomorrow. There'll be a day when you cannot handle the number of people that are coming to you. Those stages have come to me. I didn't know how. I had a public lecture in a park, and in that park, so many people asked questions. So one people said, "Can you cure chronic asthma?" When I gave him the reply, he was so excited. He gave me a reference to a rich businessman. I don't know if it is okay for me to give the name. Then when I went to that place, That person was absolutely amazed with what I had to tell him. And I asked him some questions, and there I found out that he is entertaining thoughts which are not healthy. He is a very good person, good personality, but some thoughts are coming in, and that's leading him to not breathe well. I gave him one experiment, asked him to meditate for some time, do some slow breathing, not breathe at all for some time, and then he was struggling for breathing. Then I said, breathe only through the nose. Then he could. Normally he was only breathing through the mouth, but when I asked him to meditate, cool his mind down, and then ask him to breathe through the nose, he was able to breathe through the nose, and he was amazed. How could you make me do this? So I don't need any treatment. I said, there's a lot of the treatment to go. Then he engaged me. Daily I had to visit him twice in the beginning, and then I didn't have to visit every 2 times. I visited only once, and then I didn't have to visit him daily. I visited him alternate days, things like that. And then he understood the whole thing and he followed the whole thing, and everything was good. When he got his breathing back to normal, he started telling his family members to follow for whatever problem they have. They were all surprised to see that his father is breathing well, acting very well, and each one of them, he had 4, 5 sons living in the same house. Each one had their own section where they had their family, and each one of them called me for consultation, and the work grew, and entire family at one stage started following this. So what I'm trying to say is, your actions, when you are treating others, you have to be an example of good health yourself. Without that, we cannot teach others. So most of the breathing problem starts from the mind. Our mind gets disturbed and breathing gets disturbed. And breathing gets disturbed and we are following unhealthy lifestyle. One after another, the mind takes you away from healthy lifestyle, and we suffer even more. Good actions bring good results, good reactions. Everybody knows that. These are common things. Why are you saying this? But we have to remind ourselves about small things. Good actions bring good reactions. Good actions bring good reactions. We have to remind ourselves. What are good actions? That is next. As you sow, so shall you reap, they say. Everybody knows that. But every person needs reminded. Then when your mind is set, then your actions have got to be selected one by one. You have to monitor the progress. If you take a patient who is suffering from asthma, it's not the breathing problem, it's a mind problem. How do we know that? When you treat the mind, the breathing gets better. That's how we know that. What is wrong with the mind? Nothing wrong with the mind. It's dwelling with thoughts that he cannot get better. He is entertaining thoughts which are not healthy. So when we have an opportunity, we deal with such patients through meditation, deep breathing, pranayama and all that, and it becomes possible for him to breathe better. We have to instill the idea that he is a good person and he can do so many things that he was thinking he cannot do. Absolutely unrelated things. He is angry about somebody. We remind him that you're entertaining some anger, some disturbance in your mind about somebody. If you remove that, this can happen. He doesn't believe that in the beginning. And when we keep giving him small exercises about dealing with that person within himself, he doesn't have to go to that person. He has to change the thoughts that he's entertaining about that person. Those are exercises that takes so many steps. When you go through all the steps, then you are able to excuse the other person. You understand the situation, why he is like that. Then when we clear that one, our mind is very clear. There is no bad person in this world. Every person has got bad choice. It's only the bad choice that they have got that makes them take bad actions. Like that, we can go on and on. But the sum total is when we trace back every disease, starting with asthma, arthritis, rheumatism, diabetes, bronchitis, all kinds of problems, disease. At the source of all diseases is a problem of the mind. How do you say that? In regular practice, in popular lifestyle, they say go to a psychologist. A psychologist makes the problem even worse. The popular psychologist, in the sense whom you consult, does not take you to the proper steps that we would suggest. Those are details which we have to go through in another lecture. But many people, in our school, we say divert your mind to God. There are people who don't believe in God. What about them? Atheist. But even atheists believe that there is a nature, there is a power which is working in them, in their body. The action and reaction, scientifically, they believe if there is a reaction, there has to be an action which has been bad or which has brought this result. Scientifically, also, we can discipline the atheists to adopt good habits. Once your disciplinary action is understood, they don't have to believe in God. They will go into the thoughts that they are entertaining. They are going to meditate on why they are choosing such actions and then analyze those thoughts. They are allowed to openly discuss it with you, with a natural health science health expert, and we will find easy answers for all of their problems. It's very serious problems. If you break down to simple things, you find it easy to resolve their problem. This person is disturbing me too much, and that's why I'm upset. This another company, cement company owner, was so much disturbed with another cement company which was progressing much more than this company. This company was the number one company. But somehow the other company took over and they are progressing much better. That disturbed his mind and he is upset all the time. I organized a public lecture for all the employees of that company, and I made him also be there. I didn't address him, but I addressed everybody else. As each one of you can contribute to the success of this company. How can you do that? First of all, think that you are a good person and you are giving good service to people. Your product is good, you can make it better, and you should stop worrying about other company doing better. And if you focus, all of you focus on this, because the owner was also there when I was asking the employees to focus, how does the employee make a difference? Everyone in the company made a difference. That's what I wanted to show them. And when they all meditated just for 5 minutes, and they became calm. And every decision that you make should not be to criticize the other company or put down the other company. Marketing that you do should not also aim at that. Just focus on the goodness that you have, and the advertisement will come automatically very well. There were so many advertisements which had a completely blank sheet and one small dot. One dot, and it said, focus on this dot, this is Dalmia cement. And inside that, there is a lot of good things. And the big banner with just one spot didn't mean anything to people, but they were driving around, but magic happened. This one spot went into their mind, and no matter what they were doing, that small dot went on coming and reminding them. You didn't advertise about it, this or that. You just showed them a dot and left it at that. Magic happened within 1 month. The clientele increased. How did it happen? You cannot explain in words. These are the reactions of the mind. When you say nothing and you say one small thing, that is more powerful than a person who is giving a lot of lecture, giving powerful words, this and that, all that thing goes away. Swami Vivekananda was addressing a gathering in Germany. It was a big gathering. So many speakers were there. When his speech came, he says, so many people have spoken so much, I don't want to confuse you with more thoughts. I just want you to spend 1 minute of your time to begin with, not say anything, not hear anything, just be quiet. Can you do that? He has a big gather. They were worrying, what's he doing? He closed his eyes and asked everybody to close their eyes and be calm. Dispose all your thoughts. I'll give you 5 minutes. Go to a spot where there is no thoughts. Try that. He did that, and after 5 minutes, he started with an Om, and then called their attention to the value of Omkar or whatever his speech was. He could easily register his message when he made them be quiet for some time. Because they have to dispose all the other speeches from their mind. Only then they can listen to what he has to say. So many religious people were presenting their religion, and he cannot say they are wrong, I am right. He just asked the whole audience to be quiet for 1 minute. And after that 1 minute, whatever he spoke got registered. He was declared the best speaker of the whole conference. So that's what I'm saying. Mind plays a very important role in our life. We make all our decisions depending upon where our mind leads us. Let us not remind ourselves to mind our actions and tune our mind to positive actions.
Guruji, just as with the body that experiences acute and chronic conditions, there are therapeutics that help deal with acute symptoms. What are some ways to deal with a crisis of the mind?
There was an industrialist who was a very powerful, one of the very big companies. Why was he getting asthma? They are making a lot of money. And one thought was disturbing him. There's another company which has come up with a huge advertisement and things like that. So, disturbance we have to trace. What is disturbing me? Let me be peaceful. Whatever happens, let me face it. Those resolutions we have to initiate with every patient. One may not be a rich person, he may be a very poor person. No matter what disturbs them in the stage of asthma, arthritis, so many diseases, they're all connected to the mind. So when we connect it to the mind gets resolved, it becomes peaceful, then he is ready to accept positive suggestions of whatever you are saying. Take sun bath, do pranayama, take spinal bath, do fasting, do take this kind of diet. Every suggestion is acceptable to them only when you train them in their mind to become calm. When you are calm, हर काम हो जाता है. So when you say you are calm, then that means it's a clean slate. Not putting this idea, that idea. Don't worry about comparing. Only when a clean state is there, you can give advice.
So, to get to that clean state in a crisis, would you recommend something like pranayama or meditation or any specific steps that someone can do very quickly to gain control over the crisis?
A certain person is not able to breathe. I'm telling him pranayama, he is not able to breathe. He's struggling to breathe. So, what am I doing? I'm playing a soft instrumental music and I'm asking him to meditate and go to a stage of not breathing at all. That he is already suffering. But when I put a soft music, flute music, and closing his eyes, he is breathing normally. He is not struggling to breathe. Very little breathing is not what we need. But the fear that we entertain, that makes us suffer even for the little breathing. In
Right.
normal days, when we are talking and talking, we are not breathing. When we take a break in the speech, then we breathe a little bit. We can go without breathing for a long time. People don't know that, but they are struggling because the fear they entertain makes them difficult to breathe.
Got it.
So most of the problems are solved like that.
Thank you, Guruji, for that enlightening wisdom. Before we even start with our guests, I'd like to state the disclaimer that we're not giving any medical advice on this show. We're only having discussions regarding our own personal experiences and what we understand. We have a Discord server where we are gathering people who want to gather together to volunteer and create social spaces for you to connect with and form support groups to help you. So, joining us next is our first guest, Jyoti Gusain. Jyoti's journey with natural health sciences started in 2020 with one question: can fruits heal? She began with small changes like having fruit for breakfast, then joined well cure sessions with Ashaji, which led her to a real shift through direct experience. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast Jyoti ji. Welcome to IMANAH Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Jyoti ji, we like to bring personalities on the natural health space to share their journeys and experiences so that people can learn from their wisdom. Can you please tell us about your upbringing and background and your journey to natural health?
Um, Upbringing, in the sense, my father is a self-made person. He left his house when he was in 8th standard because my grandfather died and there was no one to take care of the family, so he had to earn the living. So he came to this city of dreams, they say, Mumbai, where he was all alone. And fortunately, by God's grace, he got mentors who helped him to be on this path. He has seen all kind of a struggle, so he made sure that we are ready to face the world with his kind words and encouraging words. So, like as Guruji started with a song, he would also say the encouraging thoughts of the people whom he has read over this period of time. So he was quite strict also with respect to whatever needs to be done. The things, the clutter, you started with clutter and it reminded me of him because he always says the thing should be in its place so that when you put your hand, you should get it and not search for things. If you keep on searching, how are you going to achieve your work on time? So in case, in spite of he not being learned very good in a school or a high school, he knows how to do the productivity. Short time, good job. So I hail from Uttarakhand. My parents are from Uttarakhand, but we are based out of Mumbai. And I come from a family where moral values were more important than doing anything else. I have been always taught to do my job sincerely and always focus on the outcome with my work and not to do any shortcuts. And that has really helped me to shape me the person who I am right now. This is a little background. Now coming back to the journey of natural hygiene. Uh, so there's always twist and turn in our journey. I was not very fan of allopathy medicine, but I had a lot of pimples when I was in my teenage, and my mother was very worried. So when she heard that one of my friends cured it through a meditation, so she was encouraging me to go and visit the doctor, and I followed it. One fine day, I just happened to turn the leaf of that pill and see that this is now suitable for a pregnant woman. And I'm like, when it is now suitable for a pregnant woman, why it is suitable for me? And I asked this question. She's like, yeah, we don't encourage pregnant women, so it may have a side effect. So with that conversation, I ended. I didn't have those pills never again, and I didn't visited that lady also. Life just kept moving on, and then I become a mother. And as they say that when you have any allopathic medicine, you will pass on those effects to your child also. So I switched to Ayurveda. Ayurveda also didn't last it for a long time because they were suggesting to have allopathy medicine if fever rises for a long time. So I'm like, how can you promote something else which is not of your stream? So I didn't follow that either. One day, through one of the WhatsApp group, as I have joined a lot of other parenting group, I read a post that just being on a food or just changing your lifestyle, you can heal your all disease. And that made me really curious. How it is possible? And then I joined that group for a year. I started reading all these testimonial, everything what people were doing, how they were moving cities, going back to the roots and for the clear air, clean airs and all. And I'm like, okay, let me try before I bring it to anyone else in my family, especially to my child. Let me just experience it first. So I started with my breakfast and then I wanted to move ahead. Thankfully, lockdown happened at that point of time. Then I was at home and could make necessary changes in my meals also. So that time Asha introduced raw oil-free meal workshop. So I joined that. Then I made necessary changes. And, it was helping me. It really helped me. So the clutter which I had, so I would say if you are on a clean diet, you will definitely, you will feel the difference in your thoughts, your energy, and everything. So I tuned to high raw, and then in 2021 I fall sick. My everyone at the home was were very worried. What is happening? Why are you not taking? So they were like, at least go and visit the Ayurvedic doctor if you don't want to. So I just gave up and I'm like, chalo, let's go. Then I had few pills because my husband was there standing, cow. Like, ठीक है, चलो खाते हैं. And then I'm like, ठीक है, now I'm not going to eat anything. I'm going to fast on fruits because I was having a severe itches all over my body, and it used to reoccur every 3-4 hours. And the moment I am eating anything, there will be severe, it's uncontrollable itching, and no matter what I do, it will not help me to calm myself down. And if I'm not having at all and I'm just fasting, it's coming and going and I'm not feeling anything, no itches and all. And that really helped me to understood my body that how I'm interfering by eating something when the body is not asking for anything and just on of course they have their own concern, they have their own thought process, and as a result they are asking, coming and checking on me. But that phase passed and I cured without medication. And then my family also witnessed it that I cured it without having any medication. Then life was just passing on, and then at that point in time, I was so happy to understood all these things, and I was very. I used to just passing this message to everyone whoever I would come across, and I try to change in my family also. But things learned in a hard way. I'm like, okay, whenever anyone is ready, that time they will be doing it. I don't have to push anyone. So that was also one of the learning I had during this journey, that I can't change things for people unless they are ready. Things just passed. Things were just passing, and I left my corporate job. I started my own center for little children, and just before our center was about to, it was on the work was going on, and I was traveling from my home to the workplace to meet the contractor, and I met with the accident. And I didn't realize at the time, point of time, that I had an accident. I just got up from the space. The auto fellow helped me to reach home, and then when everyone saw, the blood was coming from this side, I think, and they were so anxious. Think, let's go to doctor. Let's go to doctor. I'm like, wait, I'm not going anywhere. Let's wait for a while. I would like to speak to Dr. Prashanti first, and once she confirms that I need to have something, I need to check with her how severe the injuries are. Do I need to do the stitches or anything. Then I spoke to her and I showed her wherever the are. She's like, you'll be fine, don't worry. But just for the family's sake, I visited a doctor. I didn't allow her to do anything. I'm like, you can do this cleaning, you see, but please don't apply anything because I'm not ready to take it. And I was fortunate enough to have a allopathic doctor who was listening to me. Who was uh, what do you say? Was kind enough not to force anything because she knew that I will not accept it. Then I went back home. The blood was just coming. One of the nurse visited, and then they did some of the bandages. And that time she applied some ointment. That was the only thing I did during that accident. And then I was just on fruits, juices, and I was all fine after 5 days. I mean, after accident 2 days, I was just getting up and sleeping. There was nothing I did except for having water or coconut water. And after that, again for 15 days, I was just on fruits. Slowly, slowly, the moment started happening. And after 15 days, I was just on raw vegetables. And slowly, slowly, the cooked food also started later on. And to my surprise, my mother-in-law poured this with her all relatives that she's so strong that she didn't had a single pill when she was met with the accident. And she feels, there was a pride in her voice. And that was something I experienced when she was narrating it to one of our relatives. So this two incident helped me to realize that yes, if we work on our what we take inside of our body, it really helps us to cure things within. No interference is needed. Of course, where there are severe things where there is an intervention is required, we'll have to go through the process. But many of the things can be cured from the grassroots level. So that's my journey towards natural health science.
So, Jyoti, is your husband, parents, children, friends, etc., supportive of the path you've chosen?
Initially, there were a lot of rough phases, but as I was just keep going on this path, now they have accepted the fact that okay, this is my journey and this is what I choose. So in fact, my mother-in-law cooks oil-free food for me at times. I
That's
don't have to
fantastic.
say anything. Yeah. She's quite creative, very good cook, and she will just make things and she will say, this is oil free for you. Or she will
Right.
remove my portion of boiled dal for me, that as she knows that I will not have too much of oil or too much of spices.
Right. In that regard, I'd like to say that inculcating relationships and good relationships is key to all of this. I know sometimes people say rude things to us and we get offended, we get our egos bruised, so we say something back, you know, and it creates this uncomfortable, unpleasant atmosphere. Sometimes you have to know how to handle things with tact, and that way just be nice, and over time people will realize for themselves that you've led a certain path and you're having certain health outcomes, and other people, they take a different path and they have a different outcome. Jyotiji, there is a way to determine if something works or not, whether it be juices, fruits, allopathy, or even natural health science. We have to walk the fine line between effectiveness
Yes,
and compliance. Something might work
true.
very well, but if nobody is going to follow it, the benefit to the masses is diminished. Allopaths often overcomplicate things through what they call evidence-based research and science, but we've found that most often they don't even follow their own standards. So this is more like the standards are for you, the rules for thee, not for me. For the layperson, we hear this argument. When we go to retirement home, you see lots of really old people. They're still functioning just fine. They eat all the junk.
Yes.
and take all the drugs, and they're still surviving. So this is the typical argument you hear, you know. I'd like to say that this kind of
Yes.
observation is very unscientific or concluding based on this observation. It ignores the fact that for every one person that is in this retirement home, there are thousands of people at this age, whatever level of functionality, who have been seriously harmed, sickness, death, injury, debilitation. The proper method is to test the theory. We're very interested in the natural health science space to have our theories tested side by side with other modalities and theories, even fruitarian diet. If there are any breatharians out there, please come and reach us, join us. We'd like to see how it functions, how your method functions. So we're very interested in all different kinds of modalities and opening up this conversation. What are some of your thoughts on that, Jyotiji?
Absolutely right, Vaji. And I myself have experienced two of the sorts with the allopathe when I was interacting with them, and that really helped me to be very firm on this path. So after my marriage, I we were doing some screening, and there was fibroids. And I asked doctor how the fibroids are. I mean, when I did the my scanning during the acne, there was none. And they were like, since you had the late marriage, the fibroids are will be happening because you have not delivered any child. And I'm like, okay. And when I got into this reading part of health science, I realized, okay, the increase in the consumption of milk and milk products has led to this because there was a huge difference once I got married to my eating pattern, lot of milk on a daily basis, dairy product. Though I was not very fan of non-veg, so once in a while, so once in a 6 month was my family pattern. Over here it was once in 15 days. I might be just having a gravy, but not the this. But at least I was consuming indirectly. So I understood. I was able to connect the dot. And during my pregnancy, I bleeded twice, and doctor didn't have the answer. I was vomiting throughout my first trimester. In spite of having a medicine, I was not able to prevent it. I was not able to consume anything. And I had a lot of questions, but there was no answer from anywhere. ऐसा तो होता ही है. And like, क्यों होता है? You tell me why. Even if I'm having a medicine, why I'm getting this vomiting sensation? Why I'm throwing out everything? And I think these few points were there which really helped me to be very headstrong. No, let me try this. And if it is working out, I'm not going to leave this path.
Right. So, Jyotiji, many people struggle with internal noise and emotional baggage. What are some of the ways you've taken steps in your understanding in caring for the self and mental decluttering? What are some of the ways that you've experienced?
Um, there are few things I would say. Like when I heard first time the veganism, I was like, okay, there's something new which has come now, and ठीक है, any which ways I don't consume things in very high this, so I was okay with it. But when I started reading about the stories, how the dairy industry works, and when I myself saw while crossing a road, a pregnant cow is being hit by the caretaker. I'm like, how can someone be so inhuman when you treat a pregnant lady I mean, you keep them on a top of your head that they should be taken care of well. Why the same treatment is not given to cow? And I saw something in the dairy area which I visited for some other work, and that really made my decision strong that I will not gonna consume it. So there should be some strong drive that should be there to keep walking this path. Apart from this, I was doing daily affirmation I slowly got into meditation. So initially, it was really difficult to sit quiet, as Guruji mentioned that it's difficult to quiet the mind. So I used to listen some song and then do the meditation. And slowly progress. And so definitely meditation is one of the key thing which we can do. And if we are not able to meditate and if we are doing things with being present, if I'm kneading the dough, I just have to knead the dough. Not that my action is kneading the dough, but my thoughts mentally, physically here, mentally somewhere else. That's not going to help us. And my energies are just floating around. It's not coming on the work I'm doing. So, and I do keep on reading books, so that really helped me to be on the path of self improvement. But meditation, affirmation, gratitude journaling, journaling in general of some of the topic is help to clear the mental clutter and जैसे गुरुजी ने कहा connect with the God. So of late I started doing jap, mantra jap, and that also really helping me. So I have observed that at each stage uh, through which we are working on this path, it changes. And maybe we have left something. So generally, I have left for almost 2 years. Now I'm going back to journaling again. So it just keeps on shuffling, just pick and choose and do things. And one last thing, not which is very important, that the nature, being out, just standing and observing the clouds, the air, how it impacts how this leaves swing with the air, how the bird sings very freely. So it helps.
Fantastic. Are
It
you
is
available for people to reach out to you and connect with you?
sure.
So how can people reach you if they wanted to?
Um, they can reach out to my email ID, or if they are in connection with Wellcare also, they can reach out to me through Wellcare also, because in between when I had time, I was assisting Dr. Prashanti. But as my work demanded more time, I was not devoted to more time over there. But if they really need any help, I'll be able to do in my best capacity.
Fantastic. Is that your correct email?
Yes.
Great. I encourage people who are interested to reach out to Jyoti ji. Jyoti ji, is there anything else you'd like people to know?
I would just like to end this conversation with two. Uh, one of the song which my father always used to say, "धीरे धीरे रे मना धीरे सब कुछ होए, माली सींचे सौ घड़ा रुताए फल होए." And the another thing which is very dear to me and I always follow, one step at a time, one breath at a time.
Fantastic. Before I introduce our next guest, I'd like to give everyone a bit of a trigger warning. Well, not really a trigger warning, but she's known for her expertise in women's health. So those of you who are sensitive, forewarned is forearmed. We have a very special guest joining us all the way from the tropics of far north Queensland, Australia. Victoria Mohren is a dedicated nature cure practitioner who has spent over 2 decades immersed in the world of natural health and healing. After exploring various alternative modalities, Victoria chose to root her practice exclusively in pure nature cure naturopathy, recognizing it as the only health philosophy truly grounded in scientific law. Victoria, I welcome you to the IMANAH Podcast.
Thank you, Omar. It's great to be here.
So, Victoria, what we typically do in our podcast is we like to bring on prominent personalities in the natural health sphere, and we like to learn about their health journeys. so other people can learn from their experience. So can you tell a little bit about your past and your upbringing and your
Yeah,
background?
sure. So I was actually born in New Zealand and raised.
Kiwi.
I'm a Kiwi, actually. Yeah, I'm a Kiwi. I'm a Kiwi, and I just kept migrating north and north and north until I found the sun. So, so I was born in New Zealand, and I stayed there until I was about 10 years of age, and then we moved to Australia. We came across from Auckland into Melbourne, and the weather was worse there than it was in Auckland. So then we moved up to Brisbane, and then I lived there for quite a few years, finished my school, went back to New Zealand for a year, came back, did my university degree, and then I moved up to Cairns because some of my family were up here. I was only planning on being here for a 1-month visit, and I've stayed for over 30 years. so obviously the environment up here just connected with me very well. I was raised standard Western diet. I was raised eating meat, and but actually my grandparents had an orchard in New Zealand, and so we always ate lots of fruit. And I don't know, I've always loved fruit and vegetables. I'm very lucky. I was never one of those children that you couldn't get to eat their vegetables.
Finicky.
I was always a good kid. I always ate all my fruit and vegetables.
Nice.
I think it was when I was about 16, I realized I was having health problems. I'd get dermatitis, I'd get thrush. You'd go to the doctor. The doctor would give you some medication. The medication would make it go away for, and then it would be back again, sort of thing. And I just started to look into. I found a little pamphlet-y type book from a health food shop about eating healthily, and that was the first time that I became a vegetarian at 16, and then I was a vegetarian for a couple of years, and then I went back to eating meat for a while, and then I became vegetarian again, and then sort of swung to and fro until I was about 23, I think. And I've been vegetarian since then. It suits me very well, obviously, because I'm Homo sapiens, because we are a plant-eating animal. And I was just always buying books about natural health. I just found it really interesting. It really connected with me. I lived my lifestyle healthfully. I remember once I was actually going to the gym, and I thought I need to stretch a bit more. So I'd heard about this thing called yoga. So I thought I was going for a gentle stretch, and the yoga class I did was the most difficult thing I think I'd ever done in my life.
Wow.
And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm so stiff. And even though I was going to the gym, I realized I was so weak as well. And so I just absolutely became absorbed with yoga, and I still do yoga to this day. In fact, I've been to a yoga class this morning before we jumped on here, and I love it. I love the keeping my body. I mean, we don't need to be human rubber bands, but I certainly like to keep my body supple and open, and yeah, absolutely.
So the years that you've been doing yoga, have you considered teaching yoga?
Oh, actually, I was approached several times to become a yoga teacher, but I don't know. I never really had a passion to become a yoga teacher. I didn't somehow see myself as a yoga teacher. But in that time, I was studying more and more, modalities of natural health, and then I actually enrolled into the Life Science Institute in America somewhere to do the natural hygiene course, which was a correspondence course, and all of my books arrived, and I started doing that course. And there was another man at the yoga who was become a friend, and he was also interested in natural health. And he was also studying natural hygiene, and then he actually met Kevin and Katie Hinton, and he said, I found something better than natural hygiene. He said, it's called Nature Cure. He said, when you start to learn about it, he said it's going to connect with you. And so I was like, oh, I'm interested. I want to look into that. So I started. I then met Kevin and Katie Hinton myself. Firstly, I just went to see them on a consultation, about health, and we just really connected, and they gave me lists of books to read, and then eventually, and it was still initially, it was, I don't know, all of my study for a very long time was really just for me. I just was so really interested in it. And the thing that just connected with me about Nature Cure was it just made sense. It just made sense. It was absolute common sense. It's funny, I remember giving a speech maybe a year or so ago to a group about Nature Cure. And a guy came up to me afterwards and he said, during your conversation, he said, I was waiting the whole time for you to tell me some amazing discovery of something I didn't know. And he said, but everything you said was just, he said, I kind of know all that stuff. And I said, yes, but do you do all that stuff? He said, no, not really, and it's not, you don't need a PhD to be healthy. You don't need, it's what I love about Nature Cure is it teaches people to take their health into their own health. We have this little thing we say, the good news is your health is in your hands, and the bad news is your health is in your hands.
That's right.
And I think that's it. We've become so medicalized that we don't believe that we are programmed for health anymore. We believe that we're programmed for disease. And I think the pandemic was a very successful coup by the medical industry to really ram that home that you need us. That was about frightening the population into submission. It really didn't have any scientific grounding. And to be honest, that whole fiasco just highlighted to me exactly, those of us who were healthy didn't have a single thing to be worried about. Those of us who looked after our health, I didn't lose one moment of sleep. I didn't vaccinate. I didn't let my children become vaccinated. They've never had any vaccines at all. It's amazing. They're made it to adulthood, really. What the medical industry will, it's like sheer luck. I used to say to people, I've dragged my little tiny babies through every filthy market in Asia, and it's amazing they've survived unvaccinated. But
you had that, what was that, Scott Morrison, and you had Andrew something, both like lockdown proponents, and they got very draconian with all their rules. It's like you give someone a little bit of power, and all of a sudden they think they're the rulers of the world.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, I think before we started recording, it was a great opportunity for them to vilify those of us in the natural health field, and to make us like, the conspiracy theorists, the radicals, the uneducated, the lunatics. We were the weirdo fringe, but actually we were the educated, intelligent people who were capable of thinking for themselves. We were the people who didn't follow the sheep, didn't follow the masses. We looked into it and we went, no, that's not right. That's what I love about Nature Cure. Nature Cure is the only health philosophy that does not depart ever from all of the scientific laws that govern life on this planet. If you cannot say it's, they said, and it was during the pandemic, follow the science. That's just rubbish, absolute rubbish.
Trust the science.
That's not science. You can put a lab coat on and you can go into a laboratory and you can do as many experiments as you like, but unless what you're doing follows the laws of science, then there's no science in it at all.
Yeah, I always say that belief is the cornerstone of faith. And questioning is the cornerstone of science, which is
Absolutely.
what they don't want you to do anymore.
No. One of the most, I've raised 2 children myself, and one of the most important things I imparted upon them was to question everything and everyone. It doesn't matter how many letters a person has behind their name. It doesn't matter what institute or whatever they come from, what book you've read in it. Question. Just because you read it in a book doesn't mean it's fact. Just
Sure.
because somebody with PhD after their name says something doesn't mean it's fact. Absolutely.
Right. Do you remember the name of the book that you read, the initial Nature Cure pamphlet?
The initial Nature Cure books that I read were the books written by Kenneth S. Jaffrey.
Huh.
And he wrote a whole heap of he wrote about between 20 and 30 little books, and they were all on different subjects about Nature Cure. The first book that I came across in that health food shop when I was 16, I do not remember it. In my Nature Cure studies, of course, we've read Herbert Shelton's work, Professor Edmund Bordeaux-Zake. Took me a while to be able to get to reading in Zake. That was like a little bit down the track. I read Kuhn and Trial and Tilden before that, but then at some point I think my brain had expanded enough to read Zake, and Zake was wow, absolute genius.
Wow. My great-grandfather, his name is Acharya Lakshmana Sharma. Acharya just means teacher.
Yes.
And he wrote the definitive guide called Practical Nature Cure. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you
I
have
have, and I believe I have it in my bookshelf here. Absolutely, yeah. I have. Yes, because when I started studying Nature Cure, when I enrolled in the actual proper course to become a practitioner, that was the first thing we studied, was the history of Nature Cure. So we call him Sharma K. Laxman.
Yeah. Sharma K. Laxman. So Sharma that's right. So Lakshman is his first name. And K is his middle name, and then Sharma is his last name. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've known about him for forever. Absolutely. So I'm highly aware of him, and he's the man that we can thank for the fact that in India, Nature Cure is still very, if I say to people in Australia, I'm a Nature Cure practitioner, people go, what? So we used to call ourselves naturopaths. Kenneth Jaffrey used to call himself a naturopath when he was practicing. But now, certainly in Australia, naturopathy, the word, when you say you're a naturopath here, people are presume that you're going to prescribe them vitamins, herbs, tinctures, homeopathics, all sorts of things like that.
Right.
So in Australia, certainly naturopathy, really the word, naturopaths are practicing alternate medicine. They're not practicing Nature Cure. They're actually not practicing naturopathy. Naturopathy. Right. I'm a naturopath. I practice naturopathy. So, I teach.
All of these pathies, homeopathy, allopathy, naturopathy, the idea is that they are following a pathology. So it's categorization of symptoms into disease categories, and then studying it as a chemical imbalance, and then to kind of intervene or supplement that with some herbal remedies or some chemical remedies, and or poison cures and whatnot. But you're right, we don't follow any of that stuff. We don't recognize the nomenclature of diseases, and so we teach that all diseases are one and the cure is one.
The unity of disease. Completely.
The unity of disease is fantastic. Absolutely. Have you had a chance to look at any of the courses that we offer?
I looked on your website, and I've had a look at some of. I had a brief look. Yeah.
Cool.
So I love that. I love the term natural health science. It's funny because I've often thought we call ourselves nature. We call it Nature Cure, but we really don't believe in cure. as
That's
as a
true.
concept, like we don't, like the only cure is removing causes,
Right.
providing the the 8 essentials for health for the human organism, sitting back and letting the body do its thing, really. Like, it would be great if I could sell something, but I could become a millionaire with it.
Right.
I don't think you go into Nature Cure wanting to be, drive Ferraris, etc. You go into Nature Cure because you genuinely want to help people.
That's very true.
Yeah.
There are potentials to make money, but that all has to do with the way you structure a business, and
Yeah.
you bring value to people's lives, and then
Yes,
that's the
absolutely.
main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I watch a lot of podcasts myself, and I find it very interesting because I watch a lot of the very mainstream podcasts, and the principles and so often it's doctors, being interviewed on these mainstream podcasts, and I'm seeing the principles of Nature Cure starting to sneak in everywhere.
Really? Wow.
Really, like it is now becoming accepted that the doctors are not going to save you, that there is no one that is going to come to your rescue and save you. And if we didn't learn that during the pandemic, that the doctors can't save you, then if that didn't land, then I don't think there's a lot of intelligence going on up there, to be honest. I don't like to insult anybody, but we are seeing more and more and more being spoken about in the mainstream medical realm that health is what you do every day, that you have to eat a healthy diet, that you have to exercise, that you have to, and sleep. Like, I saw a really interesting doctor being interviewed on the Mel Robbins podcast, and he wrote a book, and she was talking about his book, and she's talking about sleep, and he said, like, the importance of sleep is only something, he said, the importance of sleep is only something that we've started to understand in the medical realm in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, well, we've been talking about that for more than 200 years.
That's right.
Nature Cure has always understood the absolute vital nature of sleep. So,
Well, you have the Australian treasure, Paul Hogan, the crocodile Dundee, and Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter.
Yeah.
And we have our dear friend Barbara O'Neill. Are you familiar with her?
Yes, Barbara O'Neill, incredibly intelligent woman. I love a lot of what she teaches. Yeah, and she was majorly vilified in Australia. Poor woman,
She came on our podcast, I believe, the 10th episode.
Yeah,
you should check it out. She's
I
a
will.
beautiful lady.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful lady who's just wanting to teach people how to live naturally, live healthfully. Absolutely. Actually, I saw her being interviewed on the Ultimate Human podcast, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, this is a really, really mainstream medical podcast, and he's brought her on to be, and I was like, go Barbara. Absolutely. I was like, yay, we're creeping in. We're creeping into the mainstream. People are starting to, there is a realization starting to creep across this globe that you have to look after yourself. You have to stop eating all that rubbish. I'm a Nature Cure practitioner. This is what I'm educated in. This is what I understand. The principles are absolutely everything's grounded in scientific, natural health science. When you do these things, when you implement these elements in your life, you will achieve health because it's the only thing possible. Take as much or as little of it as you like.
Right. You state most beautifully that Nature Cure is the only health philosophy grounded in natural law. For our listeners who are still transitioning their mindset, how do you explain these scientific laws of health in a practical way?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the first law of science says that we must reason from cause to effect. Now, all of medicine ignores that absolutely rock solid foundation of science.
Hmm.
Cause to effect, not effect and ignore cause. And if you go to a doctor and you have a rash on your skin and the doctor prescribes you cortisone, now that cortisone is going to
Topical.
suppress, it's going to make the rash go away. But in Nature Cure, we say, why do you have a rash? What is, Herbert Shelton would always say the problem is he would say at back of the disease, because medicine categorizes, I've got a medical dictionary in my bookshelf there, and there's like, however many thousands of diseases, a complex of, they see a complex of symptoms and they label it as that disease, and a different complex of symptoms and it's that disease. Right. And their whole practice is focused on prescribing you something to suppress your symptoms. They are in the business of symptom management. They are not in the business of health. And scientific law, we talk about cure. As we said, we use this word nature cure, when actually in nature we don't really believe there's a cure. There's, the only cure can be removing the cause. And so as a nature cure practitioner, of any nature cure practitioner, somebody comes to see you, you do your diagnosis. The first thing you do is you do diagnosis, because you have to identify what are the causes of the disease state for this person that's in front of us right now. And so we must reason from cause to effect. Treating a symptom and ignoring a cause, you will never ever effect a cure for that person. Because if we suppress it here, well, then eventually it's just going to pop up here or down there or somewhere, like the disease is toxemia, and we can't just be, if you suppress symptoms, you just make the person more sick and more chronic. The law of unity, everything is connected and interconnected. Nothing exists in isolation. And we see that no more beautifully than in the working of the human body. There is nothing in isolation in the human body. The heart is not in isolation from the kidneys, mm-hmm. or the reproductive organs, or the bones, or anything else, the brain. There's this huge push in the mainstream media about the gut and the gut-brain connection and all that kind of stuff. Of course, there's a bloody gut. Pardon my language. Gut-brain connection. Like there is nothing isolated in the human body. I say to people, think of yourself as a swimming pool, and if you have this lovely clean swimming pool, now if I got a bucket of mud and rubbish and gurgling yuck and I tipped it into one end of the swimming pool, would you say I've fouled just that end of the swimming pool and the rest of the pool is crystal clear? Of course not.
A very good analogy. Your circulatory system is going to go everywhere.
Absolutely, it's going to go absolutely everywhere, and the blood that nourishes the toenail is the blood that nourishes all of the neurons in your brain.
Do you remember the time during COVID when they were saying that you're getting too many shots on one arm? Okay, the recommendation is now give it in the other arm. Honestly, during COVID, like the things that we were being advised, were just such insanity. And I was just like, are we all that dumb? Are we all that hoodwinked? Have we all been so dumbed down to the point where we are incapable of thinking for ourselves anymore? And I'm not saying that I think people are not intelligent. I'm sure we all have a level of intelligence, but what we have really, really been encouraged to do by our governments, by the mainstream, is not to think for ourselves. We have really been, and as I call it, the plandemic. the pandemic was just an absolute moment in history
where we saw that so vividly that people were just not thinking for themselves.
Right.
You know.
And it didn't really play out the way that they hoped it would play out for them.
No. Well, you know, Australia has been a strong
prime example.
Australia has been a very, very stronghold of vaccination for a very, very, very long time. You know, my daughter was born in 2003. My son was born in 2007. I was a rarity, somebody who didn't vaccinate their children back then. And
they didn't let Novak Djokovic finish his finals.
No, absolutely, totally ridiculous. You know, and
you know, one second, just I just now realized his name is Novak. It's like Novaks.
Yeah, I know. And you know, they made a parody on that during that time. Well, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't realize that.
There's a man who's intelligent. He's a great tennis player, and he's someone who can think for himself. You know, there's a man who has spent whose whole professional career has been about keeping his body at the pinnacle. You know, like everything, he doesn't just wake up and stroll out onto the court and play world-class tennis. He has to get sleep. He has diet, you know, the whole thing, his whole, you know, this is his vehicle to what he has achieved in his life. And they're telling him, you have to take this untested, experimental vaccine into your body, and we can't guarantee you safety of it, although everyone was told it was safe. How could they? No one could guarantee you it was safe. And it's not safe. And it wasn't safe. And that's been absolutely proven.
Just a quick disclaimer. We're only having a discussion for the censorship Nazis out there, right? So that we're not giving medical advice.
No, absolutely. I never give
you to get it or don't get it. No. We're just having a discussion on this point.
No.
All right.
No, absolutely. And I don't tell anybody whether to get it or not get it. It's your choice. I tell everybody, do your homework. Do your homework. Ask the questions, you know. And if you don't feel, you know, absolutely. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not qualified in medicine. I'm not qualified to give anybody medical advice, and I never do, absolutely. But I chose that it wasn't for me and it wasn't for my family. You know, but as we said about the pandemic, you know, prior to it, Australia was a very strong hold of vaccination. And then after the pandemic, there's less people vaccinating for all of the other vaccines that are out there now than there has been in many, many years. The vaccine rates in Australia have started to decline because people woke up during that time. People woke up and realized we were lied to, you know. And we were told it was safe and effective. Safe and effective. So there's been that many vaccine injuries from those vaccines, you know, and the government still tries to keep that under the blankets. But the other thing was it was supposed to be effective. You know, the whole point of it was it was going to stop transmission. And then there was at one point where 95% of the Australian population had been vaccinated. So they should have not got it.
Right.
And
everybody got it.
And then everybody got it. And I just laughed. You know, like if you think your government is telling you the truth, if that's, sorry, we were all told it was safe and effective. It wasn't safe and it wasn't effective. And lots of people who prior to that believed in vaccination started to ask questions. So, yeah. But I'm not here to be an anti-vaxxer. I'm here to talk about health.
Unfortunate that we even have to say these things, you know. Anyway.
Yeah. And actually, you know something, I don't talk about vaccination very much at all. So it's probably the most I've ever, you know, and to my children as well. You know, I always said, don't talk to anybody. Don't talk to anybody about what our philosophies are and what we choose for ourselves. What we choose for ourselves is for us. Let everybody else make their own decision. So
I even thought about maybe framing it that we're going to have a show about comedy and let's talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Indeed, yeah. So Nature Cure is founded in the scientific laws. There's I forget how many dialectical laws they are, but they are all the laws of science that, we must apply those to the health of the human organism. And if we, deviate from that, then we're not being scientific. And so to say we've come up with a cure, is you just need to take this or inject this or whatever, and that's the beauty of Nature Cure. We teach people to take health into their own hands, to take control of their own health. We teach people how to live in health. And
But now, Victoria, I'd like to get to your specific niche, which adds unique value and actionable insights for our
Yes.
audience. Your
Yes.
Billings ovulation method, your
Yeah.
women's health.
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit more about that from you.
Okay, I'd love to talk about that. And it's what I'm really passionate about. So when I first became a Nature Cure practitioner, I would say to my female clients that would come to me, one of the questions I would ask as part of my health questionnaire was, what sort of methods of contraception they had used or were using in their life. And just about all of them were using chemical contraception of some form, or
Wow.
or IUDs or something. And
Depot
I know,
shots.
yeah, Depo-Provera shots, those, absolutely. And I know that all of those things undermine a woman's health overall,
Right.
and long-term use, especially of, all of those things, destroy fertility as well. I understand that for the majority of a woman's life, she does not want to conceive. And controlling your fertility is extremely important because, I believe in women's liberation. I believe women, one of the sexes had to carry the fetus, it turns out to be the females, but why shouldn't we have as much freedom in our lives as what men does? So I believe in women's lib, but we shouldn't have to compromise our health to do so. And I would advise my clients to get off the pill, to stop using the Depo-Provera shots, to go and get that IUD removed. But I didn't have some alternative to be able to give them, and I knew of the Billings method, but I wasn't qualified in the Billings method. And so I enrolled. I thought, well, I can't tell women to come off the contraceptive pill and not be able to absolutely competently guide them into some other area that's going to help them to manage their fertility.
So just briefly, how does the Billings ovulation method works?
Well, the Billings ovulation method looks at cervical mucus. So the cervix is an amazing part of the female reproduction or reproductive organ. And depending on the hormonal levels in a woman's body, which change throughout her cycle, depends on the kind of mucus that the cervix produces. When a woman learns what fertile mucus looks like, what infertile mucus looks like, and the Billings method has 4 simple rules that go along with it. The Billings method is the most highly scientifically studied method. It is absolutely spot on. It is absolutely correct. Every single woman on this planet can learn this method. We teach illiterate women this method. We teach blind women this method. And we teach women to look into, to learn about their body, to learn about their signs of fertility and their signs of infertility. So
what are some of those signs?
Well, when a woman is infertile, then she feels dry. So if she's walking around during the day, like a woman will feel wet or moist because her period, her menstrual cycle has begun. Well, the same thing goes on when she's not having a menstrual cycle. She will generally feel pretty dry when she's infertile. But as she moves towards fertility, because fertility is a changing and developing pattern, she will start to, I'm not feeling dry anymore. Now I'm starting to feel damp. Now I'm starting to feel moist. Now I'm feeling wet. And then eventually, and then she transitions to a feeling of a slippery sensation. And that slippery mucus is extremely fertile mucus. And it is absolutely designed to enable conception to take place. And in fact, women always think, ovulation is without ovulation, she can't conceive. Absolutely true. But ovulation is not the only element for conception. She must have competent cervical function to conceive as well, because without the presence of fertile mucus, she will not conceive. She can ovulate, but she won't conceive. Yeah. That mucus must be present for that. And every woman can be taught to observe her fertile signs. And what I love about the Billings method as well is it teaches women, because for our entire existence on this planet of the earth, we've been taught that fertility is our gig. You men are separate from it. Well, fertility is not about women. Fertility is a combined phenomenon. A woman on her own is not fertile. A man on his own is not fertile. You must combine a man and a woman together to actually achieve fertility. So fertility is a combined phenomenon. And when women learn the Billings method, they teach that to their partner. And then together the couple is responsible for controlling their fertility together. And it brings couples closer together. It's a beautiful thing, absolutely. And it also takes the onus off that, that's her gig. She's got to control that, So it's very liberating in that way as well. And I think, the young woman, the young girl who, reaches her later teenage years and, she's becomes sexually active. Well, we just take her down to the medical doctor and we put her on the contraceptive pill. So we stop her body from ovulating for years and years and years. And so when the terrible thing that does as well is it affects the cervix. The cervix stops functioning as well. It stops producing the mucus that it's supposed to produce from the hormonal fluctuations throughout there, because the cervix is governed by the hormonal fluctuations as well. So we take a young woman, we put her on chemical contraception. Then at some point in her life, she reaches that stage where she wants to conceive. Now, I work with a lot of women who cannot conceive because years and years and years of chemical contraception has completely stuffed. For a start, they have no idea when they're fertile. Like a woman wants to get pregnant, she comes off the pill and their timing, they have no idea when to have intercourse. She's got no idea.
They're like ovulation period. So...
There is, but a woman who's been on the contraceptive pill for or the Depo-Provera shot, those women don't even have periods. Like nice. They've got no idea whatsoever about their fertility. They're told, oh, it's around about the middle of your cycle. Well, that's absolute rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. In a healthy woman with a 28-day cycle, it is around about that middle of your cycle. But not every woman has a 28-day cycle. Some women have shorter cycles. Some women have longer cycles. 1 month you might be really stressed. I was working with one young lady, she was at university and she was really stressed with her studying some really heavy going subjects. I tell you what, chemistry, physics, all that sort of thing. And she was in the middle of her exams and her cycle just completely blew out. But because she knew the Billings method, she knew exactly what was going on, and we could chart it exactly, and eventually she moved into her fertile window, etc. So to say to women, oh, it's the middle of the month. It's not the middle of the month. And if a woman's sick, well, it might have been, for the last few cycles, you might have been on the 15th day of your cycle, but this cycle, it mightn't be until the 30th day. You might have a very extended cycle this month because you've been fertile. And the Billings method teaches a woman to observe and competently know where she is in her fertile window in living time, in real actual time. And there's not an app, there's not anything that can do that for you. You have to learn that. It's a skill to be learned. And you can apply the Billings method to every single phase of the fertility continuum, from menarche to menopause.
So how long does it take to learn it?
Oh, not too long, actually. You know, like when a woman works with me, a few months. You know, we do, you know, like the first consultation. I teach her the whole method, and I say to her, now there's a lot of information coming at you right now. It's okay. We're going to do it bit by bit. So I give, you know, we teach, so we do the whole session, and then I just work with that woman. Then she opens up a charting account we use a app called Fertility Pinpoint. She gets a charting account on Fertility Pinpoint, and, you know, a woman just grabs her phone each night, does a little thing on her chart, and I can go into that and have a look. And then we just continue to connect over the next few months until she's confident with the method. And it doesn't take long at all. And once a woman knows the method, she's got it for life. Her fertility is controlled in her hands. You know, that's what I say about Nature Cure. It puts your health in your own hands. Billings puts your fertility in your own hands. And it was the most beautiful synergy. Nature Cure and the Billings method, you know, like now I'm, you know, so I can work with infertile, subfertile couples, work on the health side of things with them, teach them how to observe and time their fertility, you know. And I'm working with a lady at the moment. She had her first child. She's been breastfeeding. She wants to conceive another child. So I've been, you know, and she's been charting for about 6 months. I've been saying to her, you need to get the first baby off the breast first, because your fertility's unlikely to, definitely not. And we've been watching her chart, and as she's got that baby off the breast, she's finally got the baby off her breast, we can see her fertility has completely returned. First cycle of complete fertility. And I said, well, go and make that next baby now. And I love it. I feel it's so rewarding.
So you're saying that during breastfeeding, the chances of getting pregnant again are low?
They are greatly reduced. They're not non-existent, but they are greatly reduced, because when a woman is breastfeeding, her prolactin levels are high. And when you think of prolactin and estrogen, they're like a seesaw. If prolactin is high, estrogen is low, and vice versa. And to ovulate, we need estrogen to rise beyond the threshold level to make the ovaries rupture an egg. And so if prolactin is high, estrogen is low. And you know what we can see in a woman who's breastfeeding, you know, as the baby starts to feed more on food and less breast milk, but still on the breast a bit, what we'll see the hormones start to fluctuate, and that woman may have some bleeding, but it's not menstruation. You know, menstruation is a function of ovulation. If ovulation has not occurred, menstruation does not occur. It's like, it's the same thing with women who are on the oral contraceptive pill. They do not menstruate. They have a withdrawal bleed because they're on these hormones that tell their body they're pregnant, and then they get those little red pills at the end of the month, which are just sugar pills. There's nothing in them. So they stop using the hormones. So we have withdrawal of hormonal support, and she will bleed. Now that's not a period. It's not a menstrual period. It's a withdrawal bleed. So women who are breastfeeding can have withdrawal bleeds as well, and breakthrough bleeds as well, where their hormones are sitting up high, but they're not getting high enough to pass the threshold for ovulation to take place. And we can see it all in her cervical mucus. Her cervical mucus will tell us exactly what's going on. Exactly what's going on. So
now,
it's
you also mentioned the menopause, and people regard menopause often as a medical condition requiring pharmaceutical intervention. How do you guide women through this natural transition using Nature Cure principles?
Well, As I said before, we're the dominant species. Do you really think that nature completely stuffed up the female of the species and messed it up catastrophically? That, you know, there's a huge push on in the mainstream media or the podcasts, all that sort of stuff from this group of medical trained doctors, and they are telling every woman that she can't do it without hormonal therapy. And it's absolute rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. You know, so we take the young girl and she reaches her teenage years. She's been raised not very healthfully sadly, because her parents didn't have the right information. And so she's holding a lot of waste material. And she hits those teenage years where her hormones are starting to move around and the sebaceous glands become active for the first time in her life. So she starts to get some acne on her face. So we take her to the doctor, and the doctor gives her hormonal medication to suppress the acne. Anything the body does is right action. If the body's sending out waste material, which is what acne is, that waste material is absolutely better out of your body than in your body. So sorry it looks so unsightly, but again, we look at the cause, we don't treat the symptom. So we put her on hormonal medication to suppress her acne. And then she reaches those teenage years where she's going to start to become sexually active. So we put her on the oral contraceptive pill. And she's on the oral contraceptive pill for most of her young years. And then she comes off it for a while to conceive her children. And then she's back on it again until she reaches those latter years. Or sadly, she might send her husband for a vasectomy, which is another thing I absolutely rail against. So she's had her body, she's had her own natural hormonal mechanism stuffed around her entire life. She hits menopause and things start going haywire for her. Now, when I look at the list of symptoms of menopause that these medically trained, prominent mainstream people tell us are symptoms of menopause, they are symptoms of disease. Disease is a process. It is not a thing. It is not an entity. It does not enter your body and leave your body. It is a process. And you know, for me, in my studies and in just my general studies when I was younger, learning about natural health myself, but when I was really, you know, when it really landed with me that disease is a process, was a liberating moment. You know, because when you really come to understand that it's a process, it makes you understand. You know, the medical industry, they talk about, you know, the progression of disease. You know, the medical profession know that disease progresses. Of course it progresses. Disease is a process. That doesn't surprise us. And, you know, they don't quite know why it progresses, but it does. And we'll tell you exactly why, because disease is a process. And so a woman in her 40s has generally been building disease for 40 years. She hasn't been following any of the principles. You know, she's been medicating this, that, and the other, medicating all of her symptoms for everything that's popped up for the last 40 years. And then she goes into menopause. Now, estrogen declines and things start to go. Things start to feel a little bit more intense for her without the, you know, the estrogen buffer, as I refer to it. But it's normal. It's natural. I am right in that phase myself right now. And there is, you know, another one of these laws of science is the law of conservation of energy. Now, a woman is born with all of her eggs. When a baby is in utero, when a female baby is in utero, she's got all her eggs in utero.
Right.
So she has however many eggs she's going to have for her life. And we do, some women have more and less, but we all have a certain amount, lots and lots of them, thousands. And I need to go and check what that number is, average. But we're born with all of our eggs. You men are different. You create semen all the time. For your whole life, you continue to create it. Whereas we're born with all of our eggs. Now, the menstrual cycle is a proliferative cycle. It is, it's designed, each month, we ovulate once a month, and each month the female body prepares for the miracle of life, and it prepares a beautiful, fresh, living, well-oxygenated lining of the uterus every month, just in case conception takes place. Now, if it doesn't take place, we're going to get rid of that, of course, because we need a fresh one for next cycle. So that's a beautiful mechanism in itself. Now, when all of that, now, estrogen is a proliferative hormone. It's a building hormone. Now, we need high levels of estrogen to rupture that egg, and we need we need to develop, and progesterone to develop the lining of the uterus. So it's not just estrogen we lose as well. We lose progesterone as well. We lose all of our hormones as we age, and do men as well. We go through andropause, we go through menopause. But it's the most natural thing on life. Now, the organism, this dominant species organism closest to perfection, the woman has lived her life. All of her eggs are now exhausted. She has no more eggs left. And it's right. It's absolutely correct. We don't want 60, 70-year-old women don't want to be having babies. There's not enough energy left in the organism by that stage of life. So it makes perfect, beautiful sense. It's like the human organism is just amazing. Law of conservation of energy. Do you think we're going to still have menstrual cycles when we don't have eggs anymore? Do you think the body's going to use all that energy to build a lining of the uterus, to send the estrogen, takes energy to rise the estrogen level?
So are you saying that when all the eggs are done, that's when menopause is reached? Is that right?
Yes.
There's no more in reserve. There's no mechanism where menopause is paused and then you continue later on.
No,
there's some extras later.
No. So we reach that point where our fertile years have passed, and
they should call it menostop instead of pause.
They should. I agree. They should call it menostop. And there's no more necessity for the female body to cycle anymore. There's no more necessity for her to rise up that estrogen to rupture that egg, because there's no more eggs. That's what estrogen does. Mm-hmm. And progesterone, progesterone's equally important when we're on these hormonal medications. It just whacks all these levels out. So this woman's had her hormones mucked with her whole life, and she's going through menopause now. And she starts getting hot flushes, and she's having trouble sleep and all that sort of stuff. Well, a healthy woman does not experience any of those things.
Wow.
And I will stand on my laurels on that. Stand on my laurels on that. You bring me a genuine... When I say a healthy woman, show me a healthy woman. That's a hard thing.
First, tell me, what is a woman according to modern understanding?
Oh, please. You didn't ask me my pronouns. Damn, sorry. We've become so haywire. But no, menopause is absolutely a normal, natural phase of life for a woman. And it should be it should not have any problems with it. And if I see a woman who's having problems, then there's always reasons for it. But you know what? It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. We're just going to say, it's your hormones. Let's give you something for that.
Right.
If we can get half of the population of the world to sign up
Right.
for a completely medicated menopausal phase of your life.
There's a bogeyman. There's always a bogeyman.
Can you imagine how
Yep.
much money Big Pharma's going to make? It is just a money spinning.
It's
Crazy.
the germs, it's the genes, it's
It's
the
the
hormones, it's the
hormones. And we've got something for you.
it's autoimmune. You're killing yourself.
Absolutely, we need to vaccinate all the children, medicate. We're going to give hormones to all the women. It's wrong. It's wrong. And a healthy woman does not suffer in menopause. A healthy woman does not get hot flushes. She sleeps well. She still has a libido. She doesn't have dry vagina syndrome, etc. And we need it for, and they're talking about the menopausal brain and our bones and all that. So we just give you hormones for that. Well, honey, if you've lived your life healthfully,
Yeah.
and you've exercised and got into the sunshine and touched the earth and breathed fresh air and slept well and eaten the natural diet of the human organism, because every animal that walks the face of the earth has its natural diet, and the human organism is no different. When we live in, and like I said earlier in the podcast, there is none of us who live perfection. None of us are angels. None of us are, don't put me on a pedestal.
Right.
We all transgress a little bit.
That's true.
But if we largely, this is the dominant species. We are closest to perfection. There's a little bit of give. You can have a glass of wine once in a while, etc., if that's what you want to have. I'm not saying you have to live like a monk. You can have a really beautiful, healthy, wonderful life and cruise through menopause.
We'll all fall short of the glory of the Lord, right?
We are. It's so sad. Honestly, I go to the supermarket and I'll see a very, very overweight person pushing a supermarket trolley. And I look into their trolley and there's all the reason in that trolley as to why I say to people, when a person is obese or overweight, how they look is the least of their problems. It's the least of their problems. There's no such thing as a healthy overweight human being. It is a definition of impossibility. So
there's no body positivity.
No. And I'm, and for us to normalize it and, natural, say, no fat shaming, no body, I'm not interested in fat shaming somebody.
Right.
I'm interested in helping that person get healthy, because there's no fat person on the face of the earth that wants to be fat.
Right.
No, we want to be healthy. We want to be, the human organism is about our size, lean. We're not we're not mountain gorillas. We're not, we're not elephants. We're Homo sapiens. So, but yeah, to tell her, it's like telling a young woman who's cycling with her menstrual cycle that pain is normal. That is also a load of rubbish as well. A painful menstrual cycle is a sign of disease. You give me a young woman, we're seeing polycystic ovarian syndrome,
Right.
Never heard of it 20 years ago. Now everyone's got, and it's a combination of things. There's far too many environmental, plastics, forever chemicals and stuff that we are being exposed to for far too long now. It's oral contraception, it's chemical contraception, it's, processed foods, it's everybody taking medication every time they get a sniffle or, you've got to let the body go through all of its cycles, including its cycles of elimination, and sadly, we're doing everything wrong. And so we're seeing such aberrations of the human organism. And, when I have young women come to see me and I see young women with all manner of reproductive problems and painful periods. I remember one lady And she was actually in her 40s, and she was in her early 40s, and she'd had painful periods all her life. And I put her on her, her health restoration program. And I said, your periods will not be painful after a while. And I will never forget when she emailed me and messaged me, and she was like, I just had my first period where I never had no pain. She said, I didn't believe, she said, when you told me that, she said, I really didn't believe it in my mind that I would one day have periods where I didn't have pain anymore. And she's never had painful periods since.
Wow.
It's, for 20 something years, she'd had painful periods. The body, the female reproductive tract is not an organ of elimination, but the body will use any and every orifice to eliminate waste material if the need for it is there. It's what we call vicarious elimination. So the female's intelligent body knows that every month she's going to be sending it out from there. So the body sends waste material there because it knows it can flush it out through there as well. And if there's a pain anywhere in the body is pressure. Pressure on the nerves. And if a woman is sitting, say the threshold is here, at this point, she's going to feel pain, but she's sitting just here for the majority of the month. And then when she has a menstrual cycle, because there's an engorgement, more pressure, and we raise the pressure down there, she gets pain. My period's painful every time. Ask women, tell me about your periods. Do you get pain? Do you get clots? Do like the whole she tells me, oh yeah, do you need to, is it just mild pain, or do you need to medicate yourself? Oh, I need to medicate myself. I'm like, I'm looking at a very sick woman here. I'm looking at a very sick woman here. I'm not looking at a normal woman here. I'm not looking at a healthy woman here. We have lost sight of what is normal, what is healthy. We base our observations on the general sick populace and say that's normal. It's not normal.
It's true. You're right.
It's not normal.
You run a physical clinic in Cairns, is that right?
Yeah, I do. But to be honest, I don't see a lot of people physically in my clinic. I do see people, but a majority of my work is online with people because I don't, I'm not a healer. I don't have to lay my hands on. I'm an educator. Right. And that's one thing the internet is wonderful for. Is it just about any line of education can be delivered online. So yeah, I've got clients all over the world. So yeah, I can work with anybody anywhere.
How does someone reach you?
Regulation method to any woman anywhere in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does someone reach you then?
So I have a website. It's www.Mohren, because that's my surname, morenpurenaturopathy.com. Or I'm Victoria. My email is victoria@morenpurenaturopathy. But if you go to my website, there's a contact page there, so you can contact me through there. Absolutely.
Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, except it's all lowercase. But yes. Yeah, that's okay.
That's kind of my domain, and it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase; it'll work.
It'll get there. Well, you are the tech expert in this conversation, not me. I always say to people, it's like, can you show me how to do that on the computer? Technology is not my area of expertise.
I kind of noticed that when I invited you to the podcast and you said I'm on the podcaster website. Okay.
But I have to say, I was looking at it thinking,
where do I start here?
I don't see where I'm going to click in here.
And what was your email address again? You said Mohren?
Is Victoria, at morenpurenaturopathy.com.
There we go.
Yep.
All right.
Correct.
Okay, so Victoria, a few other questions that I've had in mind is that something I've noticed in our natural health field is we have a lot of people that are lone wolves. As you were mentioning earlier, that the Western medical system or the allopathic system, they consider us misfits. They consider us just a ragtag group of, conspiracy theorists and whatnot.
Radical conspiracy theorists.
Now, there is a kernel of truth to that, in that we are quite a bit disorganized, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd admit that there are some kooks out there preaching
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yes.
And so
absolutely.
in order to legitimize ourselves, there has to be a way that we can come together. The various practitioners, you and I both have the commonality of nature cure, natural health science. I don't like to call it naturopathy because of the involvement of
Yes.
pathology in that word.
Yes, I agree.
But other than even people who are naturopaths, no issues. We still have a lot of common grounds that we have with each other.
Yes,
So
very
I've
common,
found that a lot of people are out there doing their own thing, and we're kind of divided we fall kind of a space right now. How do
yeah.
we all come together? And that's one of the overarching goals of IMANAH and this podcast particularly, where I
Yeah.
reach out to people and bring them on, learn about their journey, and invite them onto the platform where we can all become one strong group.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on?
I appreciate where you're coming from, and it would be wonderful. I agree, because I agree completely. It's why, I love the term natural health science, because you say the words natural health and it conjures up people wearing crystals and sitting under teepees,
Essential oils.
and hey, I love an essential oil. They smell beautiful,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure there's any healing power in them. Nature Cure only recognizes the healing power of the organism. And so it's difficult, because I remember this very thing being floated many years ago. I'm not sure who it was that was wanting to do it, but I remember Kevin and Katie Hinton being very, they didn't want to be put in with, because Nature Cure is not going to prescribe to people. And if people are prescribing, then it's a different philosophy. It's very difficult. I love what they do in India. India has the Ayush ministry, which is a ministry for alternate health. And I think the Indian government's the most progressive government in the world. Because that's really what we need. We need governments to acknowledge that, and to be honest, there's a time and a place for medicine as well. I mean, if I'm in a car accident, take me straight to the hospital. Don't take me to a nature cure practitioner initially.
Right.
I need trauma specialists, etc. But the governments need to acknowledge that, you need to take your health into your own hands. You need to, the governments need to start, having Billings ovulation method teachers going into schools, having natural health practitioners, going into schools, teaching our children, that, you can't eat McDonald's and Coca-Cola your whole life. You're going to have major health problems if you do. Start teaching. I think there needs to be the governments need to stop treating us like, fringe lunatics, like what they did to Barbara O'Neill was disgusting.
Right.
Absolutely. She's done more to raise the health of the general populace than just about anybody, and what is she teaching?
Yeah. They tried to attack her husband through her. He formed a political party, or he joined a very alternative political party. He was gaining a lot of ground, so they couldn't get him, so they got to her.
Yeah.
That's what she said anyway, and when she came on.
But at the end of the day, so it's a really difficult question, Uma, and it would be lovely if there was because you are right that there are some loopies out there that are telling people to do stupid and dangerous things.
Right.
And I feel very strongly that we must never endanger anybody ever.
Right.
And one of the elements for the health of the human organism is mental poise. Disease is a process, and that process has 3 areas of causation: chemical, structural, and mental. And let us not forget the mental, because the mental is every bit, people are so focused on diet, and they're fanatical about their diet, and they're absolute crazies.
Yeah. You're right.
So they're going to get sick.
I just recently made a joke in a chat group. I was, sending a message to a vegan about not forgetting something. I said, you need to set your vegan egg timer. And so they were like, what's a vegan egg timer? And I said, well, you just have a vegan next to you and we keep on telling every 5 minutes that he's a vegan.
Absolutely. I go to we have the markets here in Kansas once a week, and we go to buy all our fresh fruit and vegetables, and you see these little very, 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 very skinny, they're always very, very, very skinny, and they've got bare feet and they've got their t-shirt on and it says raw vegan.
We've had, like, on our podcast, we've had like fruitarians, they only eat fruit. And they seem very happy, very vibrant. They're saying there are no.
I don't doubt somebody could live a healthy, happy life as a raw vegan. I don't think and I don't doubt someone could I don't think fruit only is going to provide you everything you require. But whatever floats your boat.
But that's the thing, Victoria. That's actually
I'm not here to deal with the extremists. I just want to help.
That's the point that I'm getting at. Everyone has their own idea of what is norm, what is extreme, what is the better way to live, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that we're all in our own bubbles and we're all in our own silos, where we don't interact with others who live that type of a life in a civil kind of a dialogue, So we're building that platform where we have a Discord server where we encourage people to join us, have these conversations with people who live these lives, and then talk to them, interact with them, and see, that we're not really all that different. And then maybe they have something that we don't know, so.
And maybe there's some element from what they're doing that actually connects with us,
Correct.
and we might go, and I'm like, oh, I might try that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
for me, maybe somebody's listening to this and maybe something I've said maybe connects with somebody, and that they think, oh, I didn't like that bit she said, but I like that bit.
Right.
I don't expect anybody to agree with me 100%.
That's right.
I do, what works for me. I work with clients. All of my clients get well when they do what I tell them to, when I do what I tell them to, when they follow the program that I have advised them, and no one's perfect, even them.
Right. And I always think about the analogy where, you have a child who demands attention, demands focused attention.
Yes.
And a lot of parents, they just don't have the patience to deal with the child. They don't want to deal with the crying, with the fussiness or whatever. And they don't want to sit down and spend the time teaching, coaching, nurturing. So instead, they'll just hand them a TV, or hand them a cell phone to, sit there and get brainwashed. And they could care less. And every one of them believes that they're a good, loving parent. And they'll all walk around saying, I love my kids, I love my kids. And then they'll say, oh, what are you going to do? They're not eating healthy. Oh, just give them chocolate, just give him whatever he wants. It's that same attitude when you go to a doctor and say, I don't want to work out. I don't want to, eat.
Give me something, make it better.
Just give me something, and that's it,
Absolutely,
it's that
just give me
complacent
something for
attitude.
it.
That's
absolutely, it is that attitude. I say, Umar, I say love is a verb. It is a doing word.
Beautiful.
You know, saying I love my kids.
Right.
Here's your screen. Don't bother me. Just get something from the cupboard. Open one of those packets. You know, I used to, when my children were little, they'd go to friends' birthday parties, and I used to, I used to call them the rip and tip parties. They'd rip the packets open, tip them into a bowl. So there'd be chips, there'd be lollies. Kevin Hinton would say the two most pernicious things to the health of the human organism: white flour and white sugar.
Wow.
Couldn't agree more. You know, like the human body does not do well on isolates. We need to give the body the whole thing, the whole orange, the whole egg, if you eat eggs, the whole, you know, eat the whole thing, eat the whole grain. Yeah, absolutely.
Shells and all, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, you know, like, and in health, you know, to say you love your child, well, love is actively seeking right answers for your child, making an effort to feed them nutritiously, making an effort to take these devices off them. You know, like, we're in a modern technological world. We have to let them have a bit of it. And look, we're sitting on a podcast here right now, so people are watching us on their devices. So that's the reality of our life now, which is great, because think of how much information is being disseminated, etc.
How much good we can do.
Well, absolutely. You know, like, gosh, if Mr. Jaffrey had been around in this day and age and he could have got onto a podcast, wow. Wow. Whereas back in his day, you would have had to have traveled to Townsville, Australia to hear him talk, you know. So, but it's making an effort, you know, and it's the same with our own selves. If we go to a doctor and we say to the doctor, give me something, make it go away. Well, can we get you to lose a few kilos? You know, like, oh no. You know, like, people don't want, and that's why I say why Nature Cure is not popular. You know, when people contact me for consultation, the first thing I will say to them before they even come to see me is, are you prepared to make changes to your diet and lifestyle?
Right.
Because if you're not prepared to make changes to your diet and lifestyle, then I suggest you maybe find another practitioner of some other modality, really, you know.
But
because
you'll see them a lot of times. I've dealt with so many cases. They would say, of course, yeah, we're willing to do anything.
yeah,
And then once they get on the plan, excuses start pouring in. You know?
absolutely. Yeah, there's always excuses. And I get people that contact me and they, yeah, and then I don't hear from them. And then they'll contact me a year or 2 years later and they'll be like, I'm really sorry that I didn't come to see you then. I'm like, I don't mind at all. People come to see me when the time is right, when the time is right for them. And the fact of the matter is like I said, you know, I can work with people anywhere on this planet from my office here in Cairns, because I'm not going to lay my hands on someone and heal them. I don't need, you know, like, you know, if I feel somebody needs to have their spine adjusted, I can send them to a chiropractor in their location. You know, like, I don't need to, you know, physically be in the same room to assist someone. I'm educating someone to help take charge of their own health. But, you know, but you got to do it. I'm not going to make you healthy. You're going to have to do it. So if you're prepared. But there again, Umar, it's one step at a time. It's not this radical transformation. No way, Jose, because that's how you lose people. You know, this is the program, but we're going to tackle it one element at a time. And once you're comfortable with that one element, then we're going to move on to other things. Indeed. Umar, it's been a joy. Thank you.
Victoria, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show and hearing how you're championing the laws of natural health, both in Australia and around the globe.
Yeah, thank you so much. All the very best to you.
Pleasure.